Запрошуємо до слова полковника Олександра Мотузяніка.
Now the floor is given to Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesperson on ATO-related issues. Welcome. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. So during the last 24 hours, the forces of the occupants continued to shell positions of Ukrainian defenders, including with the use of weapons prohibited by the Minsk agreements. But due to successful countermeasures, the Ukrainian army fully controlled the situation in the ATO zone. Also, we should say that our forces didn't sustain any casualties yesterday. Now, the information about the situation in more detail. The Lugansk sector, the enemy was the most active. Russian occupation forces delivered 28 blatant shellings of Ukrainian positions. All of them were precision ones, and they were delivered with the aim to harm Ukrainian servicemen. The heaviest firing impact was made by the enemy against positions near Troitska, Krymska and Lugansk. Here, shellings continued with some interruptions during the last 24 hours. And I will briefly outline chronology of the most critical situations at the line of confrontation in Lugansk sector due to the activity of the enemy. At night, the enemy used 120mm mortars near Lugansk, launching 6 shells that are prohibited by the Minsk agreements. And near Troitsk, the occupants started precision shelling of reinforced positions of Ukrainian forces with the use of weaponry of IFV, then reinforced their firing impact with the use of fire of 120mm mortars. And in the evening, illegal armed formations restarted mortar shelling of defenders of Lugansk, and the caliber was 82mm. And after 5 p.m., the enemy shifted focus of its provocations near the suburbs of Troitsk, and there were 14 blows of 120mm of mortar shells, and in an hour 6 mines fell in the same region. Russian mercenaries also used anti-aircraft systems and weaponry of IFV. And at the same time, near Popasna, the militants launched 12 mortar shells of 82mm of caliber, and late in the evening the enemy used 120 and 82mm mortars against our defenders of Krymsk and Lugansk. Ukrainian forces were forced to organize measures to suppress firing activity of the occupants, and it was done only in case of the biggest danger, and they used exclusively service infantry weapons. The Donetsk sector, here Russian occupation forces violated ceasefire 11 times yesterday. The enemy actively used mortars, grenade launchers and machine gun fire. And also the enemy was the most active in the region of Avdiivka. In the majority of cases, during the second part of the day, the enemy delivered fire with the use of 82mm mortars against our defenders near Piski and Shakhta-Butivka. The infantry weapon was used by the enemy in the southern suburbs of Avdiivka, and in Priazovye, Russian mercenaries systemically violated ceasefire near Vodyane and Talakivka, periodically shelling with the use of grenade launchers and weaponry of IFVs, the strong points of our defenders. And the units of the armed forces of Ukraine nearly each time adequately and efficiently returned fire with the use of wide spectrum of firing impact. And during the last 24 hours, along the line of confrontation, the enemy delivered 39, I state it once again, precision shellings of the armed forces of Ukraine, and 20 times Ukrainian forces returned fire with the weapons that are not banned by the Minsk agreements. In the result of enemy shelling, no Ukrainian serviceman was killed or wounded. Ukrainian side of Joint Center of Control and Coordination declares that militants do not care about the needs of residents of Luganshina. And taking into account pressing needs of the residents of this region, Ukrainian side of JCCC proposed to open Zolote checkpoint. At the same time, the commanders of the militants blocked once again this initiative and create obstacles and do not want the opening of such a checkpoint. And at the same time, the leadership of the militants proposed absurd option to open non-controlled Zvarina checkpoint, where residents of Luganshina forced to cover 250-kilometer distance. So this is complete disregard of interests and rights of the citizens. And 40 medical Hammer vehicles that save lives of Ukrainian servicemen are directed to the ATO zone. From the first day, they will work for Ukrainian forces, for Ukrainian servicemen. And this was said by President of Ukraine on his page on Facebook. And in the region of ATO, civil and military cooperation groups continue their work. In Luganshina, they provided food assistance to kindergartens and schools of Lugansk and Mironivsk. Our forces treated children with condensed milk, biscuits, and other treats. A group of civil and military cooperation Svetlodarsk continues jointly with the representatives of the Hello Trust to work on demining of agricultural lands of Vostok agribusiness. Also, officers of this group went to Travneva and Gladosova settlements in order to accompany the representatives of energy company that repaired the electricity lines. Also, they provided humanitarian help to peaceful population. They provided food packages to those who live in the zone of confrontation. Also, Berdyansk and Mariupol Civil and Military Cooperation Group helped NGO Doctors Without Borders in the settlements of the frontline area, and local residents were provided with qualified medical help by therapists, ophthalmologists, and psychologists. And at the same time, at the International Center of Peacekeeping and Security at the National Academy of Ground Forces, there were an instruction and methodological training, and 30 officers took part in this training, those who are responsible for training in military departments and training centers of different arms of forces. And one of the key issues considered in the course of the training was the experience of the use of high technology of simulation modeling in the training of battle units. And military instructors from USA, Canada, Great Britain, Poland, and Lithuania shared their experience with Ukrainian counterparts. And this recently, a center of simulation modeling was created in Ukraine. And in Zhytomyr at the military institute named Atta Sergei Korolev, they held ceremonies to mark the anniversary of foundation of this institution, and they held these festivities in the premises of Zhytomyrsk Oblast Philharmonic, and the event was attended by the state power and the local government and honorable guests. Thank you.